Negative. I am a meat popsicle. Welcome to Eat Sleep Nerd, a podcast where you can check out, go AFK, and relax with us as we discuss all things nerd. Comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and anything else that gets geeks more worked up than Lilu getting her multipass.
Welcome to episode number 11. I'm Corey Winter. I am joined by my brother Joshua Winter and our friend Jason Summer.
Yo.
Before we get started, please share this show with a friend. We would love it and appreciate it. Please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Jason, you're not backing me up here.
Share.
Yeah.
Share. I was waiting. Share. Click like 5 reviews. Give us 5 stars. It's wonderful.
All right, good. That was enough. All right. In this episode, we are coming off a very fun time for geeks. We're hitting the summer months. We just finished up Netflix Geek Week. The Summer Games Fest is starting for video game fans. We have Marvel movies and TV shows and Star Wars shows and Star Trek shows all happening all at once. There's a lot going on. So we're actually going to start with some news, and we're going to get into some reviews. But first, how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Josh is cracking up over here. What are you laughing?
I'm just happy to be here. I'm having a blast. We're not even doing anything yet.
I'm happy that you're happy.
Guys, I have a very important announcement.
Okay.
I got my platinum trophy on Square Enix's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's been a whole episode since we talked about Guardians.
Right. I was getting worried about it, honestly.
And I asked Josh last week if he was going to play it, and he ignored me. He just never replied.
Well, the funny thing is, I downloaded it. Like, I have it. It's fired. It's even installed. Like, I don't even have to do anything else. It's ready to go. I've been cyberpunking instead. I always got it. Like, I got it the day it came out on PC. And so theoretically, my gaming experience would have been fine. It was consoles that kind of had a release. But no, so it's actually almost it's over a year. It's been out now.
Describe that console release again, please.
Which is funny because I got it. So
the next gen ones.
Yeah,
next gen ones were fine.
They came out. There was no PS4 version or PS5 version. It only came out on PS4 and Xbox One. Is that? Yeah.
Is that what it was?
But when you put the PS4 disc on a PS5, it was fine. Yeah. Like mine only ever, yet again, I mean, this is not good. It only crashed like 3 times, which, games should not crash at all.
That's not how, software should work. Yeah, exactly.
Yes and no, though. I mean, there have been plenty of massively successful games that have a tolerance threshold for bugs, right? Like, you're not going to let one little bug ruin the whole thing, especially if it's one bug in an 8-hour play session,
I think, though, that there's a difference between a game crashing your console and a glitch in the game.
It didn't really take anything, like, because I could just reboot it and it was fine. I picked up right where I left off.
All right.
But once I realized that the game was completely unfinished, like everyone was saying, oh, this game is nowhere near complete. I was like, okay, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to see what happens with this game once the developers actually do put some time into finishing it, because then it might be a whole new game. So I'm going to wait. I'll come back to it. I have not come back to it yet, but I do remember enjoying playing it the first time.
I highly recommend you come back to it. Because like I said, I mean, they kind of did something sneaky, which I love CD Projekt Red, but the early review editions that they sent out, they exclusively sent out
on PC
because that was the only quote unquote finished version of the game. And so, like I said, I think my experience from day one would have been fine, but like I played for 2 days, then I had a bunch of work, and like Corey said, it just fell to the wayside. I just never had time to do it. But I had vacation over the last 5 days. I decided to take it after Memorial Day. And
smart.
And I would say probably 3 out of those 5 days I spent mostly playing Cyberpunk. Like, I'm about 40 hours into it.
Nice. Okay.
And like it's been great. Like I said, I think in that time I've had like 3 times I had to restart the game. But again, that's in 40 hours.
You're still having to restart it? Like, it's still crashing?
I mean, no, I'm kind of a little. Yeah.
So it's still broken.
No, I mean 40 hours. I had to restart 3 times. Like, that's not bad.
I feel like games just shouldn't crash.
I'm one of those people where I'm like, things should work the way they're supposed to work. And
I mean, every game I've ever played crashes at least once every once in a while. So anyway, we talked way longer about that than I think we meant to, but yeah, so I played Cyberpunk and it's good and you should play it. Okay. That's the point.
Good job.
All right.
Like it's good. It's worth playing.
And for my weekly update, yes, you should go play Guardians of the Galaxy, Square Enix. Highly recommend. All right, you guys want to get into some geeky news?
I didn't get to talk about what I was doing.
I don't care.
Yeah, we don't care.
You don't live.
All right, fine. Move on to the news.
I thought we were.
Whatever.
What are you doing?
I finally finished.
I do want to know.
Yeah. Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is the West no longer forbidden?
It is.
Forbidden?
Now, interestingly enough, spoilers for any of you who have not played it. I think at this point, though, I think we're okay with this. Anyway, I believe the next installment will either take them to China or the continent of Asia somehow, or possibly even to space. And believe it or not, that makes sense if you played the game.
All right.
Anyway, but it was. I think ultimately it was not as good as the first game because
it's a sequel.
It was a sequel, and I think the first game was just so groundbreaking and just
so you can say that about sequels, but Top Gun Maverick, hello, totally better than the original.
I'll agree with that.
So after playing Forbidden West, we've determined that you need to go see Top Gun.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go talk about the news, Corey.
No. So it was not as good as the first one.
No, we're done. No. It wasn't as spectacular feeling. It was still very good, but it lost. There was a lot of luster lost between the two games.
Yeah.
Still an excellent game. There's plenty of gameplay. I'm still didn't finish all the side quests and everything. It's just like, all right, I got to finish this game. But it just didn't have the awe-inspiring graphics and awe-inspiring gameplay, and the story was like, it was still a good story, just not as amazing as the first story.
You know what's going to give you that feeling to play next?
Let me guess. Hang on. I'm going to guess it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Bingo. Yes.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Oh, okay.
It is Square Enix, which is a pretty solid company.
Studio.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. All right, starting with a fun little story here, a movie story.
Which Corey didn't tell me about. He's like...
Yeah, I'm keeping this one secret.
Close to the vest.
Although you could have just looked it up yourself. It's in the doc. It's
fine. No, I waited.
Joker 2, a sequel to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker portrayal, has been announced. It is being directed yet again by Todd Phillips. Joaquin Phoenix is returning. Plot details are scarce. However, the subtitle has been announced.
What is the subtitle?
Folie à deux. So it hints at, if you actually look this up,
okay,
an identical or similar mental disorder affecting 2 or more individuals, usually the members of a close family.
I've heard of this. Not the name of it, but I've heard crime stories about this.
So a lot of speculation has it being that they might be introducing Harley Quinn, which is also just interesting to think about. Like, what would that version of Harley Quinn be like?
My guess is a younger version of his mother.
Oh yeah, especially if we're going to lean into the psychological aspect,
right?
Get a little Freudian with it.
Exactly. And she'd be broken, like he was. Like, this was not even though the Joker and other films have been, broken mentally, they've seemed healthy in other ways, like physically maybe. This guy, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was not healthy in any way. And so I imagine that the Harley Quinn would have to match that somehow. And his mom was not healthy either in any way.
So, some speculation.
Like the one I just did?
Yes, but different.
Okay.
some plot speculation about who the other person might be, if not Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys know Willem Dafoe, that wonderful man.
Willem.
Yeah.
So he threw out a story idea for a Joker movie. He's long been typecast as, not typecast, but fan cast as a Joker for a long time. It just hasn't happened yet. He's got the face for it. He threw out his own plot idea for a Joker film. And I quote, there's actually, I believe, a GQ article interview he did years ago. And I quote, "There is something interesting about if there was a Joker imposter. So it'd be possible to have not dueling Jokers, but someone that says to be the Joker that isn't the Joker. And that kind of opens up the possibility of an interesting story, particularly if you had Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and then you had someone who was better, or that was either imitating or ripping off what he did."
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Which, the way the first Joker movie played out, he literally inspired a following.
Yeah.
Like the end of the movie is him triumphantly standing on top of a police car while the riots go on.
Yeah, while the ICP surrounds
the
the vehicles.
Yeah, like he's considered a very messed up folk hero almost. Very much the 80s, we're not going to take it. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. So what if this movie is Willem Dafoe pretending to be the Joker and Joaquin Phoenix trying to like take his
dominance
throne back?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'd watch that movie. I watch the crap out of that movie.
Yeah.
The question is, would DC give us what we want? Would Warner Brothers give us what we want?
And if they did, would they have to pay Willem Dafoe for the writing?
Well,
for the story?
I mean, yeah.
All right, so Joker is happening. No release date yet, but at least Joaquin Phoenix and director Todd Phillips are returning. So, moving on, we're going to touch on some Marvel stuff because we always have to talk Marvel.
They just do too much to not.
Right.
Like, it's impossible to not talk about Marvel.
The first story I want to talk about is one we've actually openly speculated that might be a thing that we've been worried about. That Deadpool 3 would be Disney-fied and like watered down. However, the writers have come out and said that that Deadpool 3 will not be, and I quote, Disney-fied. Deadpool 3 writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick have assured fans that the Merc with the Mouth's MCU debut will not be Disney-fied as they're proceeding with an R-rated script.
Good
deal. I'm for it.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised. Like I really like. Yeah. I mean, I think it was always like a back of our head concern, but I mean, when they first announced the merger, Feige was saying, I really don't think we need to change that.
I will say I've gotten that impression about him. He's kind of like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I kind of have that impression.
Yeah, he's. I don't think he feels like he has to break everything to make it fit into what they're doing, especially since that's probably going to be the only Fox character that legitimately 100% moves over.
Yeah. You don't think the X-Men are going to move over?
I mean, they'll move over, but it won't be the same iterations of the character.
No, they definitely
I got you.
Yeah, even Pat Stu in Multiverse of Madness was not the Fox movie version of Professor X. You know what I mean? Like, they gave us Patrick Stewart as like a treat.
Right.
But,
yeah. It was more the cartoon version. It was from the 90s
it really
cartoon.
Was not meant. Yeah. It wasn't meant to be the Professor X that we've been watching for the last 20 years.
Good point.
So from what we've seen so far, and I mean, let's be real, they haven't actually announced that he's in the MCU. It's just being released by Disney.
True. That's true. But I would say that having this kind of news for Deadpool, maybe it is a positive indicator that Daredevil and those other properties that moved over from Netflix may not be touched too much in the way of whether or not they're toned down.
Like I said, I think they know that there is a space. There's a group of folks who are old enough that they want mature versions of these characters, especially when they've already been given them. You certainly don't want to be the guy who takes it away, So I think it'll be okay. I think this is going to be fine.
So to give it a little bit more context, the writers were speaking with the playlist.net. So in this interview, they also said, And I quote, "We were used to doing things our way, so there are differences, but I think the great part is that Marvel's been incredibly supportive. They're going to let Deadpool be Deadpool, you know? It's not like any particular joke may be the one that they say, you know, that's too far. That could happen, but to this point, it has been nothing but supportive."
That's good.
They're not going to mess with the tone. We've always been told it can be rated R, and we're proceeding as if it's R. We would like it to be R. We always have, so I don't think that'll change.
One of my favorite, I don't know if you would call it a meme, but it was something that was like on Reddit and someone made a picture out of it and posted it on Facebook or something. Anyway, but a guy was just like, the Deadpool presents the perfect opportunity to seamlessly move the X-Men over into the MCU. And that it should just be a scene where Deadpool sits down at his computer, opens it up, and drags the X-Men folder from Fox over to Disney. And that's how they introduce it. And they act like it's always been there.
Yeah, I saw that one. And
I've seen that as well. And that was a good one.
But anyway, this is good. I've got a good feeling. I wasn't particularly worried, but I've got a good feeling.
I think they know that they'd lose Ryan Reynolds. I think he understands.
Oh, it's such a passion project for him.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And if they were to remove his ability to be Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, which a lot of it is improv, and to put and to rein that in, I think they would lose the fun for him.
But also, I mean, Ryan Reynolds showed in Free Guy that he can be goofy and off the cuff while still being not graphic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah, he was great. Absolutely. But I think
but
like Josh says, it's his passion project.
Yeah. The difference also being vulgarity is part of Deadpool's character.
Yeah.
Like that. What? Not even just like the properties.
Yeah.
Like it's that is part of the DNA of that property, is that it's in your face and too much and
breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. So. I don't know. But like I said, I'm not worried about it. Yeah. I think it's going to be great. But it is nice to have the writers saying they're not worried about it, because writers are always worried, even when things are going well. They're worried.
And now that they, he's part of the company that has all those properties and all this money.
Oh, they could do anything.
They could do anything with Deadpool. Yeah.
This would be neat.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, moving on to another Marvel story.
Yes, Taskmaster.
Well, close. Thunderbolts. So, have you guys heard about the top secret Thunderbolts movie that is reportedly in development over at Marvel?
So, I know that this has been rumored for a long time, because especially post Endgame, it seemed like a lot of the characters they were bringing in between the new Black Widow and Taskmaster and all these other, like they could have been building the Thunderbolts. My concern now is that we lost General Ross.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, don't get me wrong, I would still want to see this movie if it came out, but it would be a little bittersweet because what was it?
Yeah, William.
Was it cancer or it was some form of cancer that got him, right?
The guy that played General Ross.
Yeah, William Hurt.
William Hurt. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. I forgot about that. Well, dang.
Yeah. And it's so, I mean, like I said, I'd be super stoked if they came out with the movie, but it would feel weird without him in it.
So help me out. I'm going to say that I'm not going to say I am completely unfamiliar with Thunderbolts.
So from a comic standpoint, which, I mean, in the Marvel continuity has been soft rebooted a million times, but the gist of it was the Thunderbolts worked directly for General Ross.
Okay.
And it usually came about at times when he was at odds with the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was essentially a group of supers who would do what he wanted them to do, regardless of what all the Avengers said. So it was sort of Marvel's answer to like the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it is described as an anti-hero team consisting mostly of reformed supervillains.
So same vein, kind of their answer to it.
Okay.
And I always thought William Hurt was he was just a little treat that you would get every once in a while in the MCU, because he was one of those characters that was like, or excuse me, one of those actors where it was just kind of, I mean, like, this man has an Oscar, like he does. The fact that he took such a small role, like that was always kind of cool, and that he continued to agree to just pop in for those movies for the better part of 10 years.
And also a role in movies that I'm sure some of the elite of Hollywood and acting kind of, these are kids movies, and it's just
I was gonna say, he was doing
stuff.
it. Yeah. Like it was him and Anthony Hopkins,
right?
Were the first two, like, really? You're in a Marvel movie? Like, that was back before it was the cool thing to do. And so yeah, I hate that they're finally going to do a Thunderbolts movie and he's not going to be around for it. That kind of sucks. But I'll still go see it because it's a neat concept.
Well, the actual news story that I've not gotten to yet.
Oh, sorry.
It has a director. Jake Schreier has been tapped as the director according to Deadline.
He sounds made up. That's not a real person.
Well, he does not have that big of a credits list. He has done
a made up person.
He has done basically 2 movies and lots of music videos.
Like John Watts.
Yeah, essentially, that's a lot of really successful directors have actually started doing. I mean, that's just how you work up.
Yeah.
But Michael Bay did commercials for years and years and years.
Were there a lot of explosions in the commercials?
Yeah, they were great. Gillette. That was it. That was the whole commercial.
Once you pop.
Anyway, no other. The movie has not actually been announced yet.
But I mean, clearly they're taking steps. This could be something that never actually materializes. But clearly they're to a point where they're trying to see if it can work.
Yeah.
They're doing a feasibility study.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, I'd see it if it came out, obviously. But
so what characters that we've been introduced to are we looking at would be part of the Thunderbolts?
The most obvious one would be Taskmaster. What happened? I don't actually remember what happened to them in Black Widow. Did they die?
So no. So Black Widow, because this is something that happens in comic book movies, they rode the crashing ship all the way to the surface of the earth, then had a fight, and then she used the antidote on her,
right,
and apologized to her because it was essentially her fault that she ended up like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
And that was Olga Kurylenko. In case anyone forgot, she was a Bond girl. Okay. So yeah, she would be on it. And I'm assuming your question is based around like the MCU. So
right,
under that assumption, the names that have been thrown around, her, Yelena, the new Black Widow, Abomination,
Tim Roth.
Yeah, with Tim Roth. There was someone else that people kept saying, and I can't remember who it was.
Wasn't U.S. Agent, is it?
Yeah, U.S. Agent. Okay. Those would be the big ones.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, so like it's a neat idea, and they certainly have enough set up that they could do it. So yeah, I'd be for it.
Cool. All right. 2 more Marvel stories. And this one's a fun one. Literally. It's Spider-Man No Way Home is returning to theaters with the More Fun Stuff version. The More Fun Stuff version. That. It's literally called the More Fun Stuff version.
I like that.
They put out marketing. It's called the More Fun Stuff version.
Yeah, so I keep seeing this.
I can't emphasize it enough. The More Fun Stuff version.
But I haven't actually clicked any of the articles. So what is the premise? It's just not going to be so much a downer, or
no, it's just extended scenes and additional scenes.
Okay. With the Spider-Man?
The speculation is that most of the extended scenes will be the third act where the additional Spider-Man are.
Right.
So it will
they probably
will be
trimmed
more
it for pacing and yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Neat. All right.
Do you think that they'll actually kill off Tobey Maguire this time?
No.
No, I don't think I don't think the idea would be to change.
Some of the concept art actually showed Tobey fighting Green Goblin, so they're thinking that actually was shot. It was just cut, so we might actually get to see Tobey reuniting with the Green Goblin,
right?
Instead of just being.
And a reminder, if anybody, or not a reminder, if anybody hasn't seen this movie yet, almost for Willem Dafoe's acting and portrayal of the Green Goblin in this movie, it is fantastic. The rest of the movie is great. I mean, it's a spectacular movie, like a spectacular Spider-Man movie, one could say. But Willem Dafoe is excellent in it.
Yes, he was. He was robbed from an Oscar for that movie.
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, it is returning to theaters on September 2nd. Tickets go on sale August 9th.
That we're going to do? I guess, is it something we need to do as an
yes.
ESN activity? Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this will make it a longer movie. So over 3 hours, most likely.
Okay.
They have not actually said yet, though.
So, restroom breaks.
Yeah.
Bring a Gatorade bottle.
Right. Mayonnaise jar. Whatever you can bring.
All right. One more Marvel story. And this one is about Marvel Studios itself. They are skipping San Diego Comic-Con for the first time ever.
Oh. Why? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Like I said before, I think they're kind of doing like what happened to E3, where eventually all the biggest studios wanted to have their own conference and their own event. I think Disney has officially reached the point, which they already do it sometimes. What was it? D23 was the last one, where they just have their own conference. They don't need to be part of someone else's event. They have Star Wars. They have Marvel. They have Disney itself. They have Pixar. They've got plenty of content. They can do their own multi-day event.
Disney does have their D23 Expo. And sources say that Disney wants to put more focus on the expo this year because it will be the first in-person one since the pandemic. So I think they kind of put pressure on Marvel Studios to focus only on D23.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking we're just reaching that point.
But it's kind of sad because Comic-Con's usually where they do their big announcements for what's coming up. Like that's most recently where we learned about Natalie Portman becoming Mighty Thor and all that stuff.
Right.
So
yeah, you're right. That's right. Because you came out holding the hammer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I hate it because all the biggest conventions are kind of getting torn apart. But,
right. I was thinking about how this would affect the fans.
Yeah. Because you're still going to get the same news. It's just it won't be at Comic-Con.
Right.
It'll be
people save up for this, and now it's I would say anywhere from a third to a half of a lot of the information and announcements and whatever, it's kind of being pulled from this big event that people save up for and they make their comic, their cosplay for. And now the question is, do they want to go to two, splitting it up? I don't know. It just seems like, I kind of get it with the amount of content and the money that could be made from a company perspective.
Yeah.
But I also see that it will really pull at the fans in a negative way.
No, I had the same feelings about E3. Like right when I was actually starting to actually have money to go attend E3 in person is when Sony and Microsoft started pulling out of it and going off and doing their own things. Right. And so it made E3 less special. And now E3, well, actually it is coming back next year, but this year and last year it was not a thing. Yeah. So E3 is nowhere near what it used to be. So it's not special anymore. So I'm worried that it's going to happen with Comic-Con as well.
So there's nothing out there now that has the same level of importance as E3 anymore.
So Jeff Keighley, he is doing his Summer Games Fest, and basically all of like Sony and Xbox and everybody, like they're partners of it. So any of these, like the Xbox conference that's happening tomorrow as of this recording is part of Summer Games Fest. So like there is still a summer video game thing, but it's not all one thing. It's like everyone doing their own thing as a part of this thing.
I see.
So, and next year, actually, that will be in person as well as online. So there is kind of still something, but no, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, so no more Comic-Con for Marvel. Boo.
Well, at least not for this year. Yeah. It's probably an indicator of how they're going to go from here on out, but maybe it'll be different. And
if E3 is any indicator, once they pull out, they never come back. Like once Sony pulled out, they never came back. All right. Wrapping up with two more stories. We're actually getting into Star Wars and Star Trek stuff now. Let's start with Star Wars. So Boba Fett actor Tamara Morrison wants to bring back the, quote, badass ways of Boba Fett.
Yes.
So speaking to E.T., etonline.com. Yeah, no, as soon as I read that, I was like, wait, what? etonline.com. Morrison discussed the future of the iconic character he first played in season 2 of The Mandalorian and then again in the Book of Boba Fett. While he admits the fate is, quote, out of his control, he does have some thoughts, especially now that Fett is the new, Daimo?
Hang on.
Domo?
Daimo.
Are you showing this?
That's what it is.
Daimo. I am your new Daimo.
Anyways, now that he's that, he says, and I quote, "We've got to bring him back somewhere. We've got to see the old Boba Fett. We reintroduced him. We found out some stuff, but I think it's time to get him back to his badass ways. No two ways around that. So I think we sort of have that scope to go out there, but that's out of my control. I'll just see what happens."
Yeah. I mean, it was heavily watched. It was just that when it was done, everyone was just kind of like, meh. Okay. But everyone watched it though. Like it had great numbers. So no, I mean, obviously it's a character that he loves very much. I think.
Well, I mean, Josh, you love the Boba Fett character. Like he's probably your favorite Star Wars character, I would say.
Yeah. 100%. No, I mean, I did feel cheated when we finally got the Boba Fett show. And I get it. The whole premise of the show was that he's been thinking and reevaluating his life and how he lives it. I think there are ways that you could still honor that character arc, but return Boba Fett to being a badass.
Yeah.
Because the big thing was he spent most of that series doing his best to not fight.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just not what you're there for. All right. That'd be going to see Mike Tyson in the ring and he'd be like, "God, I just don't think I want to do it." You know what I mean? Like it's just not what you're there to see. Like, good for you for not wanting to fight, but that's not what I'm here to see.
You're right.
So I mean, I think they could use, I mean, it's an old action trope, but I think season 2 of the book could be something happens and Boba Fett has to go get revenge and he ends up owning up the galaxy. So I mean, like, I think there's room there to honor his character growth, but put him in a position where he has to be a badass again.
Well, and here's the part of this that seems disingenuous to me, or at least maybe not disingenuous, but not possible. Because the few times that Boba Fett was allowed to be badass in the Book of Boba Fett, the choreography was horrible. His movements were that of a 60 year old, plus, 60 year old plus. His movements were that of a 60-plus-year-old man.
Sure.
And I don't know if he can. I don't know. Maybe if they did,
I would just say that none of that is a deal breaker, though, right? Because like you get a different person to do choreography,
well, yeah,
or you get the same person to do better choreography.
Maybe.
But there's a million examples of old guys being very old but continuing to be awesome.
Oh, honestly,
Keanu Reeves can barely run,
right?
But he owns it up in John Wick.
Well, yeah, Liam Neeson
has made an entire new career out of
Tom Cruise.
Old.
Honestly, he's getting up there and he's still kicking butt.
Yeah, but he still moves like he's 25 years old.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying no. So I'm not saying I'm not saying it's an age thing. I'm saying in this case, I think because of how old he is,
you just tailor it to fit that.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah. Like you can make the story about. I mean, good Lord, I would write that in a heartbeat. Old, pissed off Boba Fett.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I'd watch the crap out of that.
Well, I mean, but then we're essentially going, Clint Eastwood in Western space opera.
What's wrong with that?
That's awesome.
Well, that's great.
You fixed it.
But Clint Eastwood doesn't try to do like karate kicks and sweeping kicks and whatever. He's just like
he just has
he's
a
just
gun.
like
So
yeah, he's just like he's angry and pissed off, and then he's gonna shoot anybody that comes on his lawn, and he doesn't.
The funny thing about all of this, though, is we are comparing this last season of Boba Fett to an imaginary thing. Because at no point in any show or movie have you actually seen Boba Fett do anything.
No.
We have built it up in our heads.
But the reason why we built it up is because we have this image of him being this badass bounty hunter that just kind of got offed in the most weird way possible. None of that was present. In the series. I mean, he talked about it, But all it was essentially him recovering from the Sarlacc pit, and then him getting to be mayor. So, I mean, it was fun to watch, but it was. I just don't see more of it. I just don't. I don't know.
I do.
I hate it.
If they do the Clint Eastwood in space, I could totally see it.
All right. That's
what I'm saying.
Right.
You don't base it on what you have seen. The whole reason he did the interview was saying that it really wasn't what he was hoping for either.
Okay.
You just don't say no to doing your own TV show, regardless of how you feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the whole point of the interview was that he was saying, yeah, I kind of wanted to do the badass stuff too. So
okay.
I think if you gave it the right direction and the right story, as we've said before, I can forgive a lot.
Did you guys ever play Star Wars Bounty Hunter?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's kind of what I would like to see.
Yeah.
Honestly, as a series. Just that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys have played that. I've not talked to many people who have.
No, I mean, like,
it was actually just released.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it did not age well. It did not age well. I downloaded it.
Okay.
It was a PlayStation Now game.
That's what it was.
Okay.
And I downloaded. It did not age well. Just from a control standpoint, not even like graphics and everything. Like I had difficulty playing the game. But anyway, no, I mean, like do it dirty and dark and gritty, and he goes to the slums in Coruscant and like a smuggler's moon, like Nar Shaddaa or something like that. Like, I mean, put him back where you always pictured him, and have him just hunting the crap out of someone for wronging him in some way. And he leaves old what's her face in charge of Tatooine for a little while. That's what I'm saying. Like you can take this to the next level.
True.
And like he could be, part of his anger could be that he's having to do this again, even though he literally just spent a season of television saying he wasn't going to do this again. Make it into the character development. I'll write it. Disney, call me.
Yeah. All right. Well, there has to be that moment in there. Is like, if I ever go back to my bounty hunting ways, you're going to know it. So, you know, that has to be said at some point. And then he goes back to his bounty hunting ways. And you're like, oh my gosh, who is this person?
Yeah. Everyone's terrified.
Right.
Yeah. Batman in space.
Right. He was so badass, the Sarlacc pit spit him out. I can't digest this. This is a carbohydrate.
What? All right.
I don't know.
Moving on to one more story. Skipping over to the other side of the galaxy. Oh no, it's not the same galaxy. Star Trek. So the Kelvin crew. According to Variety, Paramount chief Brian Robbins has said that the next J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie is, quote, deep into it and close to the starting line.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good news.
I'm assuming all the actors are making whatever they want to make.
Well, as of right now, no one has signed back on yet. Last we heard, talks were underway, but that's about it.
That's kind of a problem.
Yeah. They announced the movie before signing all the actors on.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
Yes. The unfortunately, of course, Anton Yelchin will not be part of this crew as Chekhov.
Rest in peace.
So yeah, you have to imagine that since 2016, the prices of all these stars has only gone up. Because I mean, you have,
oh my goodness,
you have Chris Pine, who's been doing everything. You have Zoe Saldana, who's been doing the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. You have Carl Urban, who's been doing the Boys thing. You have Simon Pegg, who knows what he's been doing. So yeah, like they're, I guess, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure they're asking for pretty pennies at this point.
Isn't Simon Pegg in the Boys as well?
Yeah, he plays
as the father. As his father. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because in the comics, they literally drew Huey to look like Simon Pegg.
Oh, that's fantastic! I didn't know that.
They wanted him to look like Simon Pegg. You know?
Okay.
So that was kind of a shout out when they got him as his dad. Anyway, that's a side trek from our Star Trek. So no, I mean that's exciting. I'll get more excited when they have signed contracts.
Yeah.
For the entire ensemble.
I'm just excited that there's been some kind of update because, like I said, this is what got me into Star Trek. I love these.
Yeah, they were good movies.
Cast, so.
Yeah. I get a little disappointed when I hear people say that they don't count the Kelvin movies as Star Trek or they don't. Yeah,
just because they were, or they don't budget? Consider.
Like, well, no, because they deviate from the timeline that's already in place, or they're not canon, or whatever.
They're completely canon. It's just different timeline.
Exactly.
Like they actually. That is one of the better reboot strategies I've ever seen. Yeah, it doesn't discount the previous. Like to me, that was awesome.
I think Star Trek 2009 rebooted any type of interest in the whole Star Trek universe.
Exactly.
It is because of this Kelvin timeline crew that we actually have Discovery. I think that we have these current shows. So
yeah. No, I mean it's I'm right there with you. I don't get me wrong. I have a special place in my heart for all the television versions because it's a different beast. But no, I mean this is the 2009 was the first Star Trek movie that I fell in love with, and so
it was amazing. It was so much fun.
I had seen individual episodes of different Star Trek shows before that, so I was aware of it and I knew that I kind of liked it. But it always felt too big to get into at that point. Because even in 2009, there were at least, 4 TV shows that I would have to catch up on, at least.
Oh, easy.
4 or 5?
Yeah,
because the Enterprise series had just wrapped up, I think.
Yeah, the original series, cartoon. Then you had The Next Generation. Then you had Deep Space Nine. Then you had Voyager. Then you had Enterprise.
Yeah, so at least 5, not counting the cartoon.
Right.
And so, to me... And I think for a lot of people, 2009 was your jumping on point.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it was, for me, it was spectacular. And I love just Star Trek across the board before that. And I welcomed it. Okay. We've just been shown the time. Corey has indicated that we're... No, that's funny. No, this is good stuff. They need to know. We're on an agenda.
Corey's turned on the light and the music is playing.
Give us the wrap it off. Right, yeah, okay. So Star Trek. Yes.
Let's move into our in review segment. We're still going to be talking about Obi-Wan Season 1, Episode 4, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode 6. However, I do want to quickly talk about Ms. Marvel. We're not going to be reviewing it per se until the end of the season. We just kind of want to give Marvel things a break for a second because we have been talking so much Marvel things lately. So we want to only focus our reviews right now on Obi-Wan and Star Trek. But we do want to recognize that Ms. Marvel is out now. Jason and I have both seen the first episode. Jason, what are you thinking about it so far? Just initial impressions.
Yeah, initial impression. It is not one of Marvel's strongest TV series, but it is a good one. And I found it delightful. It was enjoyable to watch. I think it's really family friendly, and it's geared towards, the coming of age, little family history, a little family drama, insight into how a different culture lives and interacts with each other in the world around them. But, ultimately, I enjoyed it, and I want to watch a second episode.
Yeah, I'm not sold yet. I did thoroughly enjoy it. Like the lead actress, what's her name? Iman Vellani, I believe, who plays Kamala Khan. She was fantastic. And I love the styling, just like the direction of the show. Like there's like some awesome like graphics and the way they actually like do the camera work and stuff for some scenes is fantastic. Like some very
I agree. I got that too. Yes.
But my biggest con so far is that it kind of feels like a Disney Channel show, which by itself is not a bad thing. Because I mean it is a Disney show, like it's being made by Disney, so like it was bound to happen because it is a coming of age show, like she is in high school and everything, so it makes sense. Like for the character, it totally makes sense for it to be a Disney Channel style show. But I don't know, we're not going to talk spoilers here, but there's like a lot of MCU connections, nothing really tying the story in to like have ramifications to the larger MCU story yet. But that could very well happen as we see more from this season. Like damage control apparently is going to be playing a role at some point. So it was definitely a fun watch. I don't know if it's going to be for me, but I'll keep watching to see if that changes. But yeah, it'll be a good one. Just not sure if I'm the audience for it.
Right. I do want to make a correction to what I was saying. There was a word that I used earlier, which it wasn't quite the word I was looking for. I used a different word earlier to describe the show. I found it charming, not delightful.
Okay.
There was a charm to it. And I think there's a distinction between those two words. Delightful, was the, not this week's episode of Star Trek, but last week's. That was delightful. Anyway, charming is a good way to put this.
Yeah.
For this episode.
Yeah, that is very accurate. It's a very charming show. Definitely a bright future for this show if the story picks up. So, okay. Moving into our actual review segment. Let's start with Star Trek Strange New Worlds this time. How about that?
Why?
Yeah,
Why'd you just say
I'm
why?
uncomfortable that you're trying to change things up.
We always end on Star
we need
Trek.
routine and order.
Nope,
Okay.
starting with Star Trek.
Okay. So now, is there a reason, or you just want to mix it up?
I want to mix it up.
Okay.
All right, so starting with Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 6, left us where suffering cannot reach. Who wants to go first? Actually, you know what? I'm going to go first, and I'm going to start with the most important aspect.
It's falling apart. It's falling apart. Oh, I see why you wanted us to go first. All right.
I'm going to start with the most important thing to take away from this episode.
I agree with you. I already know what you're going to say.
Is it Pike's Peak?
You just stole it from me.
Let the boy have it.
You stole it. Catching Pike's hair. Fine, take it away.
So I knew when this episode opened that this was something I was going to talk about. When at the beginning of the episode, the turbo lift doors open and Pike is standing there with this amazing tower of hair.
It's really the very first thing you see.
It is.
I was so distracted by it. It was fantastic.
But it's not like it is. It could be cartoonish or comedic in any other show.
Yeah.
But it fits with this, and I don't know why. And interestingly enough, today I found an article which talks about one of the main characters in Star Trek, which is Pike's Peak, is what they're calling his hair.
That's fantastic.
and they use it. We've talked about this with David Tennant's hair in Doctor Who. They convey different scenarios and different ideas with his hair. Like even when he was doing his dinner party, they let it look a little more natural and it was kind of wavy. And so but today, like you said, those turbo lift doors open and it is straight up.
It's perfectly coiffed.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the episode itself. I think this actually is, I keep saying this every week. I think this is probably my favorite episode so far. And it's because it still had the predictability. However, there was a twist with the predictability to where it ended up not being predictable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was sitting through the episode thinking about the predictability of it. I'm like, oh, Corey's going to be disappointed.
Yeah. And then there was a little twist.
Right.
But I
hate
how with shows or even movies, whenever they're leading you to, the good guy's going to end up being the bad guy. They always like hint, like the bad guy will like, they'll like give that little like look or something like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, but they do know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I feel like they hinted a little bit too much that
something was off.
Yeah. And that kind of, I wish they hadn't done that because the twist would have been a lot more important and satisfying if they had not done that.
I mean, it was, and I've said this before, like it is predictable, but it's predictable I have an idea of the vague concept of what is going to happen, but I don't know how it's going to happen.
Right. Like you think which players are going to play the role, and those players did not play the role. Like it was still like the ultimate story was the same, but it's just the characters were not who you thought they were going to be.
Yeah. And I mean, and they started teasing probably a third of the way into the episode that something was off.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's, I don't know. I liked that it didn't necessarily have a happy ending. Like this was the first time where they kind of lost.
That's what I was going to say. That was actually one of my points is that it had a pretty messed up ending considering what we've experienced in past episodes is that they didn't win.
Yeah. I mean, and some things are just a bit of a Kobayashi Maru. Like sometimes you just can't win. Like there's nothing Pike could have done differently that would have changed the ultimate outcome.
Which is actually interesting because that they lost. Did you notice that the end of episode message was actually told from the bad guy's perspective?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It ended strongly with a philosophical question about. It's like,
and I like that
which type of suffering is more acceptable for society? What's the right answer? I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, and you get asked that question, all the time. It's, do you sacrifice one person if it means saving countless others? And I mean, they're just the only folks who had the balls to do it.
So you had a couple, as Star Trek does, you have a couple stories going, and they kind of dovetail at the very end. You had Uhura continuing her training as a cadet in the different departments, and this time she's working with Noonien Singh.
Yep.
And that was kind of a fun side story. You've got a story with Pike and his relationship with this alien woman, and we finally get to see a little captain romance that is standard for Star Trek, or at least the earlier Star Trek.
So is he not with the captain that he was with in the first episode, or was that a one-off?
I think they were really, really
down.
close friends. I think they were really, really close friends.
Yeah.
So he's a player.
A little bit.
No, I don't think it was a player. I think it was just like an agreement between two people who recognize that they're just ships of the night, and this was the best opportunity to make a connection with somebody.
See,
honestly think that was it.
That was not clear to me, because when he started kissing her, I was like, "Wait, hold on, you're not allowed to do that, sir."
Corey was losing respect.
No, maybe that comes with age and experience, Corey, when you can recognize these things.
Oh, okay.
No, so I mean, again, if you know the long form of Captain Pike's story and how it ends, he very much has a quote unquote love of his life. But I would say probably for the majority of this show, he doesn't know that that's what's going to happen. So he does get his happy ending, but in the meantime, I imagine he's going to spend most of this series available. So no, I mean, that's neat. The funniest thing that happened with me, I watched it with my folks again, but as soon as the girl shows up on the teleporter, my mom goes, "She's one of the Hallmark girls," because they watched every Hallmark movie ever made, especially all the Christmas ones. And apparently that actress is one of the folks who has like a recurring film contract with Hallmark. So
that's outstanding.
As soon as she teleports in, everyone's like, she goes, "That's one of the Hallmark girls."
Of course.
Lindy Booth is her name.
Thank you for looking that up. I could not find it. So good job.
Yeah, no problem.
Good job. Yeah.
Rocky Mountain Christmas.
See, there it is.
Sound of Christmas. She was also in an episode of Supernatural. She was in Kick-Ass too.
That's right. I knew
you were trying to figure out where you knew her from.
I knew it wasn't from Hallmark, but we from somewhere.
We have not watched every single Hallmark movie, but my parents have.
All right, so let's get into reviews. It sounds like we've talked about that episode. Do you have any final thoughts before we give our scores?
I think we know what the scores are.
All right, scores. Episode 6, as a reminder, because these are mostly episodic episodes for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, we're giving each individual episode a score and then averaging everything together to give us an overall score for how we're feeling about the show as a whole. So, Jason, how'd you feel about this episode?
I felt not as enthralled or impressed as last episode, but it's still excellent. And I think that was just, for me, that last episode was just so good that I don't know if it, comparing another episode to it. Anyway, I'll give it 5 first servants out of 5.
Oh.
I have this feeling that Corey may not be going in this direction.
Oh, I am. 5 out of 5. All right.
As
Josh.
usual, it was his favorite episode.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It's his favorite. He did say that.
At this point, it should really be at like a 10, but.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Josh.
I think it was another essentially perfect show. It continues to give me warm, fuzzy feelings every time. And like, this is the first time that I've been so attached to a TV show that like on the day it comes out, I make sure I watch it. Like that's even with Obi-Wan and these other ones, like I'll get to it when I get to it. Like this one, I like set space aside to make sure I can watch it. Like I get very excited when it's Thursday, new episode Thursday. So yeah, I'm going to give it 5 withheld technologies out of 5.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it. So that means Star Trek Strange New Worlds is being bumped up ever so slightly to a 4.97 across this entire season. All right. Moving into the latest episode of Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi. I believe this was episode 4. It was. It was an episode. Some things happened.
Yeah.
I've had more people tell me kind of meh this week. And it was like, I feel like the good parts of the episode were really, really good.
Yeah.
And the things that stand out, it's a bit like, I know it wasn't that big of an episode because the things that I'm thinking about are like technical things. The production value is really good. And the lightsabers continue to look amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it is the shortest episode. It's barely 30 minutes. I feel like they needed to get from episode 3 to episode 5, and they just couldn't quite flush out a full episode in between. And this is what we ended up with, and it was still barely long enough to call it an episode.
I think my biggest problem with it was that it felt like it was repeating itself because he had already rescued Leia once.
Yeah, now we're doing
so
it
why
again.
Within 4 episodes are we already having to rescue her a second time?
Like I said, I think it's because episode 5 and 6 are probably going to be mind-blowing because it's going to be your big climactic conclusion. I think we're going to finally get the Vader and Obi-Wan, like the real showdown. But I almost feel like they've written themselves into a corner because they lost Leia again. There's not going to be time to get her back in episode 5 and 6. So now I got to wrap it up and get her back so we can get to the important part. That's kind of what I felt like. This was the episode to get you where you're going.
Yeah, I feel like story-wise, the only real reason this had to happen was so the third sister can put a tracking device in Leia's droid. However,
Correct.
that could have easily been worked into the previous episode.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It felt like a waste of an episode. Not a bad episode.
No,
I thought
but certainly
actually,
the weakest episode.
I thought Obi-Wan had a pretty good amount of character development because he actually was showing that he was comfortable using his lightsaber again and the Force again.
But not at first. He kind of fumbled around a little bit the first time those first 2 troopers he was hacking up. He looked a little uncomfortable. And then he got right back into it.
Yeah.
So I liked that. I thought that was a good touch.
I think I noticed like a pose or two that he used when he was fighting in, I think, Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
That he mirrored here.
Yeah.
Mimicked here. And I was like, oh, that's his fighting style.
I
That's good.
recognized that.
I liked recognizing that. Like, just because I don't like the prequels doesn't mean that I didn't see them. So,
I mean, there were good parts of the prequels.
Anyway,
yeah.
For me, this episode, if you'll recall, I said, in one of our earlier episodes that as long as the story is good and the acting is good, I can forgive everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else. This was an example of the reversal. Like the acting was great. There wasn't anybody that I felt did poorly as an actor in their role. And like you guys were talking about, the production value was spectacular, but the story was just
there wasn't much going on.
Yeah, and there wasn't. Yeah, I won't say I felt like it was a complete like waste of time, but like you were saying, like it was very repetitive to things that we'd already dealt with before, and it seemed a little redundant. There was nothing. Yeah,
if this series was longer than 6 episodes, and this had happened further into the season after having experienced it the first time, it would have been fine. But the fact that we're having to rescue Leia twice within 4 episodes just seems a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Get it together. Yeah.
One thing I really liked about the episode, it's actually one of the last things you see, is the Vader scene at the very end.
Yes.
Where he force chokes the crap out of the third sister.
So hard she goes flying up into the air. Yeah, like a full body choke. is what that looked like.
And he came into that room with such like
gusto
yeah. and leadership. He was angry. I loved it. And they made him look gigantic compared to her.
Yeah.
Like he was just this all empowering figure. It was awesome. Like that was the Darth Vader I wanted to see.
It's like we said last week, the Disney version of Vader is just this over the top, overpowered juggernaut. And I love it. I'm so here for it. Like if I have one complaint about the series so far, it's that I want even more Vader.
Yeah.
Like I want equal time Vader to Obi-Wan.
I know it honestly just makes me wish we could actually have that show that you were talking about where we could just see Vader in his rise to the Empire.
Yes. Give me the Vader show. 100%.
Just call it the Vader show.
The Vader show.
All right. Well, I think we have talked our way through that episode. So how are we feeling about it? Let's go to scores. As a reminder, we are scoring the series as a whole. So after 4 episodes, I'm going to go first. I'm going to dump it down just a little bit. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 so far after 4 episodes. Because it also, it's still great. And I think it could still end up as a 5. But this just kind of felt like a waste of an episode despite its pros. Josh, how are you feeling?
My feelings mirror yours. It's by no means bad, but this was just kind of an odd little episode. And I just feel like it kind of murdered the momentum we had started to build up in episode 3, to no real benefit. So yeah, I'm going to take mine down to 4 hacked droids out of 5.
All right. And Jason, as a reminder, you're actually sitting at a 4.5. So Josh and I were both previously sitting at a 5. We're not done at 4s. So you were previously sitting at a 4.5. How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling worse about it. I mean, it's not.
I mean,
it's
that seems
not
to be the consensus.
Again, right. It's not a horrible episode. It's just, it's not as good as the previous 2. Previous 3? 2.
3. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, previous 3 episodes. Even though there were parts that stood out as pretty exciting, Darth Vader, they're doing pretty well with Darth Vader. I'll give them that.
Yeah. But one force choke does not save an episode.
It doesn't. I'm giving it a 3.75.
Whoa, that's a pretty big drop.
Yeah.
All right, that actually dumps. Go ahead.
No, it wasn't anything where I would tell anybody like, oh, you have to watch this or this episode's important. It's just, it's almost, I mean, we could talk about the episode because that's what we do, but outside this conversation, it's not something I'd really discuss or have the need to. I mean,
yeah, I feel like it did not advance the story at all.
Yeah.
Aside from like a 5-second, I put a tracker on their ship.
Yeah.
That was it.
If I can summarize your entire episode in one short sentence, not a lot happened.
Yeah.
So. Now, I do have the feeling that there were a lot of Easter eggs for people who are familiar with the Clone Wars and all of those series that kind of take place in between episode 2 and 3 and 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I think I like the Jedi Mausoleum. I have a feeling those were Jedis in the amber, I mean, that they were saving to recreate the dinosaurs for later. Did you guys not get that feeling, Jurassic Park, with the amber?
So I did. I did read an article about that. It was kind of titled something cheeky, like the only interesting part of episode 4 or something like that. But people were wondering if, because the question is, why are they saving the bodies of Jedi, frozen or alive or dead? Either way, why are they keeping them? And people were wondering if this was the beginning of maybe Palpatine trying to experiment with how he can avoid death, because that's been a fixation of his character since the beginning. From when he first talked to Anakin, like even before he was maimed by his own Force lightning, he was talking about the big thing between him and Plagueis was how could we cheat death? So maybe he was, because his argument to Anakin was that secret was lost forever. So the theory was, has he already kind of started turning to science to see if there's a scientific way he can cheat death? So It was a neat thought. I have no idea if it has anything. Maybe it's just a creepy collection. I don't know, but it was a neat thought.
Speaking of Easter eggs, and this might not be an Easter egg. It actually might be building to something bigger. So I don't know if you guys noticed. In the episode, we saw our first live action debut of Purge Troopers.
I saw that.
Which were from the video game Jedi Fallen Order, and they were an enemy of Cal Kestis. So, is this hinting to Cal Kestis actually making his live action debut at some point?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
There have just been a lot of murmurs about that.
Those do look like cool stormtroopers, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people would like to add those toys to their collection.
Right.
Jason is one of them.
No, I don't have my collections anymore. I got when I was anyway. It's okay. I just don't have them anymore.
Oh, I think we just opened up some old wounds. All right, so Obi-Wan Kenobi, after 4 episodes, is actually sitting at a 3.92 now.
Ooh,
yeah, it got dumped down a little bit. It can still make it up. It can still make it up. It's got 2 more episodes.
Episodes 5 and 6 could be mind blowing.
Yeah, we actually get some Vader Obi-Wan action. We'll see. All right, that is the end of Eat Sleep Nerd episode 11. Any final thoughts, guys?
See, we always talk about sharing our stuff, and I don't want to harp on that all the time. That we want people to share.
I want to harp,
you know,
on
and yeah. I mean, I just asking people to share
really
and put it on their
home.
Facebook and tell their friends about it. I mean, we say that all the time.
Yeah, just literally all the time.
All the time, right? Yes, yeah, it is important. Do it.
We'll stop talking about it if you start doing it.
Do it now.
Well, either way, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.